A little walk and talk, guys. Hope everybody on YouTube is doing well. So anyway, I'm out in the sun. Just got done doing a little X3 bar workout, winding down with a little stroll out in the sun. You know, got my bear skin on, getting some vitamin D. Anyway, you know, what I would say is preliminary thoughts on the X3 bar. If you do it right, it's fucking hard. I gotta tell you. The question is, you know, that I have is it gonna be enough volume at the end? So we'll see how the 6-week experiment goes. So far I'm a couple weeks in, and so far you know, that's the only resistance training I'm doing, so we'll see how it goes. Wanted to remind you guys about Steak Timber coming up. So Joe Rogan messaged me for August and said, hey dude, I never felt better in my life than I did in January when I did strict carnivore, so I'm going back on. And so for August he went pretty much strict carnivore, so we'll have to see how it goes. The question is, am I going back on Rogan? When the Harvard study is completed, that's when I'll likely go back on. Last time I talked to him, he said he'd love to have me back on, so we'll see if that happens. The other thing is clinical trial, the intervention trial that we're funding. We are now nearly $117,000 raised, so we are making good progress. Still need more support to get there. I've been talking with all kinds of researchers, talking with David Ludwig, Eric Westman, several others, lots of contract research organizations that are professionals that will be doing the study. I won't be doing the study. I'm not a researcher, and anyway, I'm gonna help fund it and talk about the general design, but I won't be the one implementing it, just so you know. We're many months away from even getting it fully funded and then getting it finally designed and then implemented. So for you guys who want to volunteer, it's not gonna happen for quite a while, but we do still need to raise the money. I want to talk a little bit about uric acid. A lot of people ask about gout. Dr. Baker, am I going to get gout on a carnivore diet? So the question is, maybe. But let's talk in more general terms. And I talked about this a little bit on our Meet RX podcast today. But, you know, what is uric acid? Why do we have it? What does it do? Well, uric acid, the reason humans and other primates have relatively high levels of uric acid, and remember, our kidneys hang on to 90% of the uric acid, and there's a reason we do that. It's not a waste product. It's not something we try to get rid of. It's something that we utilize. Uric acid is actually a very powerful antioxidant. In fact, it's one of the most abundant and most powerful antioxidants we have in our bodies. And so uric acid protects us from neurodegenerative disease. It protects us from reactive oxygen species. It protects us from inflammation, you know, infection. So uric acid is important to have. And so the question is, why do people with high uric acid levels sometimes develop gout, which is clearly a bad thing? Anybody who's had a gout attack can tell you it's friggin' awful. You know, horrible pain. So there's a lot of factors that go into gout. But let's look at a population that has an additional mutation. So why? So let me go back a little farther. If you believe in evolution, I know many of you guys don't, but the thought is that around 13 million years ago, based on genetic studies, that the primate line of which we eventually evolved into lost the uricase enzyme, or the capacity to make uricase. Uricase will, you know, basically break down uric acid into something called allantoin. But since we don't do that anymore, you know, we keep uric acid, and it seems to be a proxy. Well, it has function. And one of the thoughts is because our vitamin C, our ability to make endogenous vitamin C went down, we made more uric acid, and that conferred us the advantage to not need as much vitamin C. That's why a lot of people who go on a carnivore diet seem to need very little vitamin C, because our uric acid levels often go up. That's one of the mechanisms. But anyway, back to high uric acid levels. So the New Zealand Maori, which is the indigenous tribe, or the indigenous population of people who live in New Zealand, which when I lived in New Zealand, I met many of them, some great people, have one of the highest rates of gout in the world. And the reason for that, or one of the reasons for that, is they have an additional mutation that makes them retain even more uric acid than normal. So they have really high uric acid levels, and they have really high gout. So the common sense would be, well, clearly your high uric acid levels cause gout, but there's more to the story than that. 100 years ago, the Maoris didn't really have gout. So their genetics haven't changed, their uric acid levels haven't changed. So what has happened differently? Well, in the last 100 years, you can probably guess, the diet has dramatically changed. Now, the other thing to note is that many people have high uric acid levels, and they don't have gout, right? They don't have gout. And why is that? Because Gout, or uric acid is a dependent variable on whether you're going to develop gout or not. Remember, uric acid has a very protective effect. In fact, there's studies out there showing that people that have high uric acid levels pretty much never get multiple sclerosis, which is kind of an interesting associational observation, but maybe there is some, it maybe does confer some protection there. Again, that's observational data. So what we do seem to see is people that have metabolic disease, they have immunologic issues, they have diabetes. Those are the people that end up getting gout, even with low uric acid, but certainly with higher uric acid levels, they get it more frequently. So if you go on a carnivore diet and you are obese, you have metabolic syndrome or metabolic disease or underlying inflammation or something like that, and your uric acid level goes up, which it very well might because you're having a higher purine content in your diet. The same thing can be said about fructose and alcohol, but meat can raise your uric acid level. It might precipitate a gout attack. Well, what do you do in that situation? Well, you take the medications designed to alleviate that for a while. But here's the thing, long term, as you improve your metabolic health, as you lose that belly fat, as you lose that insulin resistance, as you lose that inflammation, for the most part, the vast majority of people see their gout disappear. So that's the story on gout. So if you ask me, am I going to get gout on a carnivore diet? I said it depends. If you're coming as a big fat dude with a lot of metabolic syndrome, it might occur. But you got to know, the end of the day story is you've got to fix that underlying metabolic disease. You've got to get rid of that visceral fat. You got to get rid of that belly fat. You've got to get metabolically healthy. That's the bottom line. You may have to suffer through a few gout attacks potentially to do it. There's some ways you can adjust the diet too. Maybe a higher fat approach, maybe a little less protein, more fat might be a way to mitigate that somewhat. But anyway, that is the thought on gout. I think that's enough, guys. Anyway, enjoyed a little talk with you guys for a little walk. You guys take care, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.